Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dead Mall Walking. In 2018, Dan Bell released a video about his visit to the West Oaks Mall in Ocoee, Florida. The video came after a long absence of his from the Dead Mall series, more than 6 months unless you include a brief visit to the Bal Harbour shops in Miami, and its arrival in my inbox was cause for celebration. I consider the video a return to form for Dan, who's been known to take time off due to mental health struggles. I'm no stranger to those. And the joy he exudes in his West Oaks Mall video is truly infectious. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it, and couldn't resist calling back a couple of jokes from his experience later in my own video. This place was opened in 1996, and parts of it look like they haven't been updated since, and has more than 1 million square feet of retail space. It's currently owned by Moonbeam Capital, a name that strikes fear into many a Dead Mall explorer, and it's not doing well. I was shocked not just by the number of empty storefronts here, but by the volume of big names that have abandoned the mall. Zumiez, Foot Locker, Hollister, and plenty more have all called it quits. I love this place coming up on the right here, Trendition. We're just making up words now, huh? But look at those posters calling out shoplifters and banning balaclavas in the store. We'll get back to some of that later in the video. Truth be told, I really didn't have time to visit this mall. I'd planned to visit early on in a Florida vacation, only to be struck down by a pretty serious case of food poisoning. Check out this place on the right, a place to host kids' birthday parties. I didn't film inside for obvious reasons, but it was one of the busiest spots in the entire mall. Anyway, I shuffled around a few things and was able to spend exactly an hour here before I needed to return a rental car and board a flight. So if I'm walking a bit quicker than I usually do in my videos, you know why. Any minute now, we'll see a mall cop appear from around this corner like magic. Ta-da! If you plan on coming here to film or take pictures, use caution. These guys are everywhere in here. In a way, this was a nice bookend to the trip in question. In a previous video on the Oaks Mall in Gainesville, Florida, I explained how that mall does something to tell my brain that my vacation has begun. This visit to the West Oaks Mall, actually 100 miles east of the Oaks in Gainesville, but let's not go there, did a good job of closing out a trip in which I tried to cram filming 5 malls and retail areas into 5 days. Trust me when I say that burnout is real. Now we're heading towards an old anchor space that's currently being used to house SunPass offices, a toll pass that operates in and around Orlando. A few people are sitting around here, presumably enjoying the excess oxygen that absolutely gigantic mall plant is putting out. I'm still not sure I get why these offices are actually here. In every video I've seen of this place, they never seem to be manned by anyone. They have that in common with this abandoned house of pretzels. We're just passing a gym now that, from what I could tell, had a full-size UFC octagon in it. A couple of guys were actually sparring in there one of the times I walked past. It seemed pretty lively in there, much like the tax collector and DMV coming up on the left, before Dillard's Clearance Center. It's kind of telling that the busiest places in this mall aren't stores. It really speaks to the idea that many American malls aren't going to survive unless they find ways to diversify what they offer inside. One thing I found really strange about this mall is that there's very little in the way of exterior signage. Nothing above the main entrance, which has this weird greenhouse look. You have the big sign right off Clark Road, but that's pretty much it when it comes to outdoor markers. And nothing much above the food court entrance either. Gives off a strange vibe. When you combine that with the heavy security presence, I counted at least 3 guards, 1 stationed in the food court and a couple of others patrolling the mall. You almost get the feeling that the mall's owners don't want people coming here. I don't know if this guy had heard about a sale at Dillard's or what, but he just started flying down the mall all of a sudden. When you read up about the history of this mall, you start to wonder if there might be some truth to the idea of owners not wanting people to come here. Check out this YouTube comment on Dan's video, posted 3 years ago, which alludes to, quote, high school gang members having a standoff with police throughout the whole night. Bizarrely, there are a couple of different incidents that this comment could be referring to. In 2015, People magazine reported hundreds of teens storming the AMC Theater in the West Oaks Mall. Shots were fired, 2 arrests were made, and police found drugs in a stolen car on their arrival. In 2018, police were called to evacuate the mall after a disturbance. No arrests were made this time, despite rumours of a shootout on social media, but the incident was once again blamed on disruptive teens. I gotta say, it seems like these Ocoee kids are built different. So what's the deal with this mall? Is it as much of a battleground as some social media posts and news outlets would have you believe? I wouldn't say so. I visited on a weekday morning and found the place fairly innocuous. It's not one I'd hurry back to, since it didn't have a ton of brand name stores left open, but I didn't feel threatened or unsafe. In fact, with such a visible security presence, the main thing I was worried about was getting tossed for filming. Then again, they say there's no smoke without fire. You have to wonder if that security presence is due to some of those previous incidents. Vintage Bath & Body Works. You love to see it. I initially thought based on the exterior that this place was an Abercrombie Fitch, but from what I can tell, it seems like it used to be a Hollister. How can you have a Hollister without the weird outside-inside porch? I never quite figured out what the deal was with these displays, featuring different hats and accessories like umbrellas that seem to have been tossed into the air. A graduation reference maybe? There is a college fairly close by. If there's someone out there who knows what the deal with these flying hats is, please let me know in the comments. A dumb joke from Dan's video on West Oaks Mall that I inexplicably love is when he interrupts his own commentary to comment on a change machine that has a couple of letters missing.
That if you wanted to get out and take a nice walk, Ange, I'm just kidding.
I'm sad to say that the letters have since been replaced, and Ange is gone. She has, however, been replaced by her brother Shane. Shane, it's great to meet you. Long live Shane. As we make our way up towards JCPenney, past yet another enormous planter, you'll see some evidence of the extent to which this place is still hanging on. A huge storefront being totally fitted out. I tried to take a peek inside to see what was going on, but I couldn't really figure it out. By the time this video goes live, maybe it'll be open, and you can go and check it out for yourselves. I was up here not to check out yet more flying hats, but to look at Spencer's gifts. And I definitely enjoy getting to check out that retro frontage. Just look at that neon. Now we're walking down a wing of the mall I found particularly interesting. When I was walking down here, I initially assumed that I was heading towards an anchor store that had been walled off. Although that was probably the case at some point, I'm pretty sure that this was formerly a Bed Bath & Beyond customer service centre. News broke this week that Bed Bath & Beyond, a chain I don't have a ton of experience with, declared bankruptcy. This place was ahead of the curve and closed back in 2020. All that's left of it now is this weird liminal space that looks like a wing of the mall that hasn't rendered in yet. I couldn't work out if this older gentleman was teaching this lady how to make Great American cookies, or just talking with his hands. We'll never know. Another dead mall walking mystery to add to the pile. Before we leave the mall, let's stop by the food court, because what trip to the mall could be complete without a trip to the food court? Not many brand names in here, except for Charlie's Philly Steaks. A trend I've really noticed recently, all these dead mall food courts seem to have a Charlie's. I really like these murals around the ceiling in here. It was a sunny day and light and bright in here. Definitely one of the nicest parts of the mall. In 1 second, you'll notice an AMC 14 over on the right. There we go. I just can't get over the fact that this cinema has 14 screens when the mall is this dead. Who's coming here to fill all those screens? I don't get it. Anyway, another dead mall staple up ahead. A food court carousel. But don't get too excited, kids, because it's out of service. Or technically, with that typo, out of service. Well, that about does it for my whistle-stop tour of the West Oaks Mall. As you can see, 5 years after Dan's visit, this place is still soldiering on, despite the pandemic, inflation, and all of the rest of the ways the world is ending. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for dining, fashion, fun, unless you happen to be passing by, but it's a nice enough place to stop by for an air-conditioned walk. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop me a like and subscribe to the channel. Both are hugely appreciated. My Instagram and some other ways to support the channel are linked in the description below. Until next time, goodbye from the West Oaks Mall in Ocoee, Florida.